please give a warm Washington, D.C. welcome to Jim Hightower.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Howdy ho. What a joy. Thank you, Kevin Danaher. He's uglier than a mud truck, isn't he? But he'll do for the heavy hauling, and that's what he's been doing here with Greenfest all across this great country. And I thank Kevin and the other sponsors for allowing a scrawny Texas populist to be part of this stellar event. And I don't use that term lightly here. This is a tremendous, tremendous festival all across the country. And in fact, it just makes me happier than a worm in compost to be standing up here looking out at all of you D.C. Greenfesters, you champions of peace and justice and liberty and sustainability, you bushwhackers and corporate butt kickers, you agitators for America's progressive values. It's just terrific to be gathering here for 2 days of educating and politicking, mobilizing and organizing, fraternizing and frolicking here in our ongoing effort to take our country back, to take it back from the warmongers and fearmongers, from the greedheads and the boneheads, up on Capitol Hill, in the White House, and on K Street here in Washington, D.C. Thanks again to Global Exchange, to Co-op America, and all the great groups, entrepreneurs, and citizen activists who are gathered here, people who are doing such terrific work that does not get mentioned in the establishment media, but the work that is going on at a grassroots level all across our country and is changing our country for the better. Folks who are challenging conventional wisdom, who are confronting authority and raising common sense to high levels. Now, I happen to know it's not easy to challenge the powers that be. They have a way of coming back right at you. Sometimes you get the feeling like that guy that B.B. King sings about. Nobody likes you but your mama, and she might be jiving you too. Did you ever get the feeling like that? Well, it's not easy, but it is essential. Essential if America is ever to achieve those values of fairness, justice, equal opportunity that America actually stands for in this country and around the world. We need your spirit more than ever before. The powers that be, of course, try to say, oh, well, they're just a bunch of agitators. People gathered here in this great hall, just a collection of agitators. Well, hogwash and horse hockey. You know, they say that, well, our workers were perfectly happy in that factory till those union agitators began to talk to them. The poor people didn't mind living up against that toxic waste dump till the environmental agitators bothered them. Well, the truth is, America is built on agitators. Were it not for agitators, we'd be sitting here today wearing white powdered wigs singing God Hail the Queen, wouldn't we? Agitation built America. We need your agitating spirit more than ever before. And when they say, oh, you're just an agitator, say right back at them, yeah, that's the center post in the washing machine that gets the dirt out, huh? We could use a lot more of that, couldn't we? Don't be afraid to be an agitator. The truth is, it's no longer enough for us to be progressive. We've been passively progressive for a long time. We've got to become aggressive again because the powers that be have turned radically regressive. We also need this great festive spirit of fun in our movement. You know, politics ought not to be dour and dark, depressing, dull, downbeat. I come to you as one who can say that battling the bastards is just about as much fun as you can have with your clothes on. So go ahead and turn it loose. We need more of that spirit. Speaking of battling the bastards, here at the top of my peroration, let me offer this bit of good news. It's now 15 months, 2 weeks, 3 days, 20 hours, 50 minutes, and about 43 seconds before George W. and Dick Cheney are officially out of office. And in fact, we've started a little clock, a tick down, Hightower's lowdown countdown of the Bush regime on my Hightower Lowdown website. You can go to it there, hightowerlowdown.org, and just get it right to the second. Anytime you need a little pickup, just go there, hightowerlowdown.org, and you can check the clock and see how close it is. Well, we are, thanks to the Bushites, but thanks to really to the corporate powers behind the Bushites, we're in a big time in our country, a difficult time in our country. We're in a loud time in our country. In fact, I don't know what that is, in which the powers that be are trying to run roughshod over the great majority of us. Our friend Bill Moyer says it well. He says, the delusional is no longer marginal. It has come in from the fringe to sit at the seat of power. You know, you really don't have to be a card-carrying progressive to know that something's gone terribly wrong in our land of the free. In fact, I, about 2 years ago, saw a bumper sticker on an old beat-up pickup truck in my town of Austin, Texas. Actually, that's redundant in Austin, beat-up pickup truck. But this bumper sticker said, "Where are we going? And what am I doing in this handbasket?" People have a clue. They know that something's gone terribly wrong. 73% of the American people now say America's headed down the wrong path. And the reason they say that is because it's true, demonstrably true. Even George W. knows it. George W. said you can fool some of the people all the time, and those are the ones you want to concentrate on. Well, it's those that he cannot fool, you, that he fears. You are the ones that he belittles, tries to marginalize and ignore. And that's the importance of great events like the Green Festival. Here you can recognize that you're not alone, and in fact you are the majority. Here you can get informed, get organized, learn to stand up and speak out and take charge. You know, they say that the first job of a citizen is to keep your mouth open. And that's good. But it's better if that mouth is attached to a brain. And that's what you can learn at these booths and at these meetings here. How to connect brain power to mouth power and make a difference. I believe it's time for us progressives to speak plainly. So let me try this. America is now ruled by an outlaw regime. An outlaw regime. Not a democracy. We have a presidency of autocrats and plutocrats, theocrats and kleptocrats. A regime that tries to rule by fear. You know, we once had a strong president back in the Depression, in a dark time for our country, and he said we have nothing to fear but fear itself. Now we have a weak president, a frightful president, who tells us that fear is our future. That fear is patriotic, that fear is America itself. He even color codes it for us. So we can know whether it's just a run-of-the-mill orange-tinted fear day or a red-hot, super scaredy fear day. Then he even puts it on television. I don't know if you've seen this. There's a new commercial running around the country produced by Homeland Security Department. It shows flashing of small children, worried, asking their mommies, "What if something happens? Will you come get me?" Then a narrator warns that every American family must get prepared for a terrorist attack. And then the screen goes dark and the words appear, "Everyone should have a plan." This is Bush's, Dr. Strange Bush's, new world. Well, let's look at Bush's America in two different ways. First, in terms of his war of lies in Iraq. George W. likes being the war president. He gets to use all the toys and assert all the power of a military government. In fact, my lowdown summer before last, we did a whole thing on Bush's war program. Bush says, "I'm the commander, see? don't need to explain. I do not need to explain why I say things. That's the interesting thing about being president. Maybe somebody needs to explain to me why they say something, but I don't feel like I owe anybody an explanation. George W. Wouldn't you like to buy him for what he's worth and sell him for what he thinks he's worth? That's a budget balancer, isn't it? Yet George W. runs all around the country today like a sand flea on steroids. He's out there telling us that his invasion and occupation of Iraq is a noble cause, he says. In fact, it is essential to the very security of the United States of America. Well, if that's true, where are Jenna and Barbara, the Bush twins? They're of prime enlistment age. If it's a noble cause, if it is an essential cause, why are they not in Daddy's war? And where are George W.'s 8 nieces and nephews, also of prime enlistment age, not of one of which are in their uncle's war? I say if the war is not worth the Bush's life, it's not worth anyone's life in America. Then we get Bush's surge. This is the latest strategy in Iraq. Some 30,000 more Americans being sent there. Actually, I was for this. I was for the surge. Yeah, let's send 30,000 more people over there, but not any of the people who've already been there. Instead, let's draft young Republicans. I mean, they're for the war. They're sitting on bar stools cheering Bush's war, so I say, give it to them. Get their big butts off of those bar stools and make them boots on the ground in Basra and Baghdad. That'll make a change. You know, some people say we need a draft, again, to make the war fair. Well, I think that's nonsense. I think we just need one new rule, and it's this. Any politician that supports a shooting war will have his or her family drafted to be first in the line of fire. That would change the politics, I believe, of war in America. And now, having launched his war of lies, having killed 3,800 Americans, maimed tens of thousands of soldiers, killed and maimed untold thousands of innocent Iraqis, dumped $611 billion of our tax money into Iraq, and soiled America's flag and good name, he's trying to continue the carnage indefinitely with a fresh pack of lies called the Petraeus Report. Do you see the media coverage of this? I mean, was this embarrassing or what? I mean, this is such a sham, a scam, a shame, a shell game. Yet the media went along with it. They said, what is General Petraeus going to suggest to Bush? I mean, you never ask a barber if you need a haircut, right? And we got a saying in Texas, if you find that you've dug yourself into a hole, the very first thing to do is quit digging. But Petraeus says we've got to keep digging. Well, now let's look at Bush's America in terms of the imperial presidency. From their very first day in office, Bush, Cheney, through their infamous Patriot Act, through Abu Ghraib, Guantanamo, national security letters, secret torture memos, extraordinary renditions, the suspension of habeas corpus, signing statements to negate laws, summary arrests of protesters in their sweeping secret domestic spying program. King George W. and his buddy Buckshot Cheney have taken a chainsaw to our Constitution and to our Bill of Rights. The Bushites are deliberately, determinedly working to oppose the anti-America on our land of the free, an unrecognizable America of supreme executive authority, constant surveillance of we the people, secret government, suppression of dissent, permanent war. Bush himself referred to it in these terms. in 2004, our enemies are innovative and resourceful, but so are we. They never stop thinking about new ways to harm our country, and neither do we. He's not the quickest bunny in the litter, is he? Again, their weapon is fear, total fear. This summer, Mike McConnell, Bush's appointee to the head of the CIA, the guy who created this secret spy program here in America, he said that if Democrats fail to pass the extension of this illegal spying program, then, quote, Americans will die. That's how they rule, by fear. Waving the bloody flag of 9/11, they say, surrender your liberties, or we'll be attacked again by the madmen. They say, don't question authority, it only encourages the madmen. We must close government in a dark veil of secrecy so the madmen don't know what we're up to. They say police power must be drastically expanded in order to protect you from the madmen. What they're really saying is to keep the terrorists from destroying America's freedoms, we're going to destroy America's freedoms. You know, Lily Tomlin has said, no matter how cynical you get, it's almost impossible to keep up. Well, my message to you today, and I'm sure you're wondering just exactly what it is this. You and I need to recognize something very important now. Our problem is no longer George W. Bush. He is who he is, a bonehead. In fact, 2 weeks ago in Australia, he said to the deputy prime minister down there, we're kicking ass in Iraq. And there are donut holes smarter than this guy, but nonetheless, forget him. Our target now has to be the weaselly, wimpy, feckless members of Congress who are so cowed by Bush that they are not standing up for you and me, for the Constitution and for the Bill of Rights. Now, I got to tell you, when my party, I come to you as a Democrat, in fact, as Kevin indicated, was elected in the state of Texas, much to the amusement of the people down there for a couple of terms, statewide office. Proud to be a Democrat in terms of its populist values and constituency and principles. Yet my party has changed, and when my party took control of Congress, last fall's election, I had mixed emotions. You know, they say mixed emotions is when you see your 16-year-old daughter come home from the prom with a Gideon Bible under her arm. Well, on the one hand, I knew that we have a good core of solid progressive Democrats, people like Russ Feingold and Pat Leahy, John Conyers and Mel Waxman, Barbara Lee and Lynn Woolsey, Dennis Kucinich, people who are confronting this runaway executive in Congress. But on the other hand, they're up against too many scaredy cat Democrats who are just routinely spooked by Bush saying, boo. When Bush rips out another piece of our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, these Democrats cluck their tongues and wag their fingers, but then they cave in and they legalize the illegality, whatever it is that Bush is pursuing. You know, the warrantless spy program that I mentioned from last summer, when Mike McConnell demanded that the Democrats pass it, they did. They approved it. A guy sent me an email and he said he hoped that Bush gets caught smoking pot because the Democrats will then legalize pot. Well, this is pathetic. It's also dangerous for our democracy. It's not about wanting to get Bush. Again, he's now the least of our problems. It's about getting our Constitution back. You know, I think of Barbara Jordan, lady I was privileged to know a little bit, late Congresswoman from Houston. July 25th, 1974, she was on the Judiciary Committee. She took her turn to speak during the Nixon impeachment inquiry, and she said, "My faith in the Constitution is whole, it is complete, it is total, and I am not going to sit here and be an idle speculator to the diminution, the subversion, and the destruction of the Constitution." 33 years later, it's the Constitution itself, the very basis of our democracy, that's at stake. May I be blunt with you? A presidential coup is taking place right in front of us in this country. A coup is not something that just happens in Latin American banana republics. It can happen anywhere. The separation of power, the checks and balances, the rule of law itself are openly being diminished, subverted, and destroyed. Where are the Barbara Jordans of our day? We need them. Again, let's be clear, Congress is not a weak branch of government. It is a co-equal branch of government. The framers intentionally gave it the powers to prevent, or at least to rein in, a despotic executive branch. You know, Bush barks at us that he's the commander-in-chief. Well, yeah, but he's the commander-in-chief of the military, not of the government, not of we the people, only of the military. Bush and Cheney assert inherent war powers, but wait a minute. Congress also has inherent war powers. You don't hear this in the media. You don't hear it through our education system even. You don't hear it even from the Democrats. But in fact, Congress has the power to declare war, not the president. And by declaring war, that is not just the power to start the shooting, it is the power to limit any war scope and duration. And Congress has done that in our history. Congress has the power to make the rules of war. Congress has the power to control spending, including defunding any war or any part of any war, a power that they have used in the past. Congress has the right to oversee, to probe, to expose. You might remember, some of you, the Fulbright hearings in the midst of the Vietnam War, exposing day in and day out what was going on. You might remember the church hearings about the CIA's extremes in the 1970s. Congress stepped up and changed things. Congress has the power of subpoena, the power to hold executive branch members in contempt of Congress. Jimmy Madison, known as the father of the Constitution, said the Constitution supposes that the executive is the branch of power most interested in war and most prone to it. Therefore, he says, the Constitution has accordingly, with studied care, vested the question of war in the legislature, not in the executive. Congress has this power. And of course, Congress has the power of impeachment. Nancy Pelosi says she has no stomach for it. It's off the table. Can you imagine Speaker Newt Gingrich saying that? It's off the table? Okay, the Democrats, they're afraid of impeachment. But could Democrats at least stand up for the Constitution? Stand up for the inherent authority of your own branch of government? Stand up for yourself, if not at least for us. You know, if the meek ever inherit the earth, these people are going to be land barons. For the founders, standing up for checks and balances was not a political option, it was a constitutional obligation. So come on, Democrats, you're in charge. And if the Democrats are wondering where exactly to make a constitutional stand, how about this? Iran. Iran is next. Ready or not, here come the neocon nutballs, the Bush-Cheney axis of insanity, now trying to provoke an attack on Iran. Norman Podhoretz, He's the high priest of neoconservative nutballism. Recently met with Bush, spent 45 minutes with him, talking about bombing Iran. And Podesta said that to do so would, quote, unleash a wave of anti-Americanism all over the world that will make the anti-Americanism we've experienced so far look like a love fest. And yet, having said that, he then added, I hope and pray we will bomb Iran. I mean, God bless America, and please hurry, right? This is astonishing. Yet, lest you think that the Bushites are too crazy, too loopy, that this would be too disastrous even for them to consider, note that Newsweek magazine recently reported that Cheney himself has tried to get Israel to attack Iran in the hopes that they would then respond and therefore we could bomb them. The London Telegraph reported last month that the Pentagon now has 2,000 targets selected in Iran for us to bomb. There's a new military base being built right now on the Iraqi-Iran border. So where the hell are the Democrats? And they're weaker than Canadian hot sauce, let me tell you. This is embarrassing. What an opportunity for Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid, the leaders of the two houses of the Congress, to make a preemptive strike against the Bush's insanity. And in saying no to Iran now, they would not be subject to any attack on the basis that they're not supporting the troops. We have no troops there. So we could indeed be protecting the troops, and we could send a little shock and awe to the Bushites' White House and the Pentagon, to Bush, Cheney, and gang. They could say, we will not allow it. We will not fund it. You have no constitutional authority, and if you pursue it, we will impeach you. Now that's a message. Now, that would be a real Congress, wouldn't it? One we could trust, respect, be proud of, call our own. Instead, congressional leaders are treating us as the problem. They're chiding us. They treat us like Kleenex, basically. We, the people who are wanting to end this war. They say to us, be patient, go slow, don't rock the boat. We're trying to seek compromise with the administration, so y'all just be quiet while we work inside the system. Well, be quiet? Holy Thomas Paine. Since when do freedom-loving Americans cower in quietude? If you don't speak up when it matters, when would it ever matter that you would speak up? Now is the time. We've got to get loud. Mark Twain said it well, loyalty to the country always, loyalty to the government when it deserves it. That's a big difference. And besides, we have no right to be quiet. Too many democracy fighters over the generations have fought and bled and died to make it possible for you and me to be quite noisy, to be as noisy as we want to be. That's what we've got to stand up for, you know. Our congressional leaders don't seem to understand that the opposite of courage is not cowardice. The opposite of courage is conformity, just going along. I mean, even a dead fish can go with the flow, right? Well, that's where you come in. Some people, even on the progressive side, they just want to give up. They say, well, we can't win. They've got all the money. They've got the media on their side. We can't win. We're doomed. We can't make a difference. Well, get a grip. I mean, come on. You know, start with this. Even the smallest dog can lift its leg on the tallest building, right? And secondly, recognize this: we are winning. We have not won, but we are winning. We're making tremendous progress. We've got the bastards on the run, and we've got the American people on our side. That's a big goal right there. You know, again, you don't hear much about this in the media, but America is actually a very progressive country. The people are extraordinarily progressive. The polls on the war, on civil liberties, on the economy, on the environment are clear, and they are clearly progressive. Here's a few of them. 77% of the American people want the U.S. out of Iraq. 2/3 of military families disapprove of Bush's handling of Iraq. 7 in 10 Americans want Congress to cut or kill Bush's latest demand for $200 billion more for his war. And that includes 46% of Republicans. It's going down the line. 66%, 2/3 of Americans want health care for everyone, even if it means increasing their own taxes to pay for it. 2/3 of the American people. %87% want government-negotiated drug prices. 76% say there's too much power concentrated in corporate hands. 65% say corporations put profits over the public interest. 83% want stricter regulations to protect our environment. 69% want more fuel conservation than more oil drilling. 68% say labor unions are necessary to protect working people. Guess what? America is a progressive country. We don't have to fear the people. We've got to get with them. And indeed, look at last fall's elections. 2006, common sense majority stood up. They said that the emperor has no clothes. And not only is he buck naked, but he's butt ugly. They're on to him. And we elected some true progressives, not merely Democrats, but little d Democrats, with progressive populist instincts. People like Sherrod Brown over here in Ohio, Amy Klobuchar in Minnesota, John Tester out in Montana, Bernie Sanders is in the U.S. Senate up here in Vermont, Claire McCaskill in Missouri. And we got rid of some real knuckleheads, didn't we? Like Rick Santorum in Pennsylvania. And if that guy got any goosier, he'd fly south every winter, you know. He was strange. And even in Texas, we turned Tom DeLay's face red because we turned his district blue. A Democrat now sits in Tom DeLay's district. We won 6 governorships, 9 legislative bodies. Minimum wage increases were put on the ballot in 6 states. In all 6, they pass, often by 3/4 majority. We are winning. We're making progress. And here's the big news. You did this, not the Democratic Party, not the big money boys, not the media, not the consultants and the cognoscenti. You, grassroots action, produce these victories. Groups like, of course, we got the League of Women Voters, the League of Conservation Voters, we got the League of Rural Voters, and a new group called the League of Pissed Off Voters. They did a terrific job in this last election as well. We're on the move. It's up to us. Up to you and me. We cannot depend on the politicians to fix it. We've got to do it ourselves. You know, democracy is not a quick fix. You've got to be the leaders, as you are doing. But assert yourself. Be proud of it. George W. says, I'm the decider. I'm the decider. Well, no, he's not. Neither are the Democrats. George W. is a tin-horn president. I know Karl Rove created him as the cowboy president. I bet a good number of you think he's a rancher. You know, he goes down there to his little ranchette in Crawford, Texas. The media goes down there with him and they film Bush. And Bush says, I'm clearing brush. Clearing brush. They raise brush on that ranch. They do not raise cattle, however. There are no cattle on Bush's ranch. Isn't that a little strange? Have you ever noticed that Bush is not on a horse? He's afraid of horses. And in fact, that's not even a ranch. That's farming country in Crawford, Texas. That's not ranching country. And it was a pig farm before Bush bought it in 1999. I don't make this stuff up, people. It's just right there laying in front of us. But why doesn't the media talk about this? And I know Bush has got that hat. You know, he wears that hat. Got to be a $1,000 hat. I bet he bought it at Neiman Marcus, right there in Dallas. But there's a $1,000 hat on a 10-cent head if I ever saw one, you know. But again, the point is not who Bush is or is not. The question is, who are we? Who are we going to be? You know, Sam Adams, the man, not the beer, though he was a brewer, the founder of the Sons of Liberty, the organizer of the Boston Tea Party, Sam Adams said, "If ever a time should come when vain and aspiring men shall possess the highest seats of government, our country will stand in need of its experienced patriots to prevent its ruin." That's you and me. And that time is now. What can we do? Well, exactly what you are doing, only more of it. Again, this is a big time in America. We've got to stand forward. Push what you're doing, push more of it with more intensity, more loudly, more creatively. Our friend Molly Ivins, a personal friend of mine down in Texas, Molly, who died earlier this year, in her very last column said, "Bang pots and pans." We've got to get noisier. Again, it's a big time. I was in Vermont not long ago in a political event. A guy came up wearing a political button. It was the best one I ever saw. It said, "Wearing a button is not enough." We can't be a nation of button wearers. I think we're in another of those when in the course of human events moments that Thomas Jefferson wrote about. They're stealing our country, the very idea of America, and turning it into the anti-America. We've got to push forward. Not easy, not going to happen in a hurry. Democracy, not a quick fix. You've got to persevere. Yeah, we didn't win it all in 2006, but we made gains, so we got to add more gains in 2008 in the Congress as well as the White House. We got to make gains in the legislatures, in City Hall, in county commissioners' courts, everywhere. We got to just keep pushing. My friend Willie Nelson once said to me, he said, "Hightower, the early bird might get the worm, but it's the second mouse that gets the cheese." I always have to let that one lay out there a little bit for y'all to get hold of it. Well, I'll leave you with this thought, because it sums up kind of where I think we are and what we got to do. My old Aunt Eula, this comes from her. She was a farmer up in northeast Texas. And when I was but a boy, they got electricity on their farm for the first time. Thanks to the New Deal, the Rural Electrification Administration came in and provided electricity in the rural areas, and that meant for them something very practical. They could put an electric pump in the creek and move water into the house. For the first time, they had water in the house. And one day, though, when I was visiting her, they were having a problem with the water. It had turned all murky, and the faucet was pouring out this murky water, and the men were all standing around kind of looking at it and scratching their butts and saying, "Well, I don't know. What's the cause of this?" And my Aunt Eula turned to me and she said, "Jim, the water won't ever clear up till we get the hogs out of the creek." Now, right there's our problem, isn't it? The hogs are in the creek. They're fouling our economic, political, and environmental waters. And I don't know if you know anything about hogs, but you don't get them out of the creek by saying, "Here, hog, here, hog." You got to put your shoulders to them and shove the hogs out of the creek. That's our challenge. Thanks so much for what you're doing. Proud to be with you today.